Hello, everyone. We will now turn to a speaker who brings a rare combination of deep technical expertise and process excellence. Bogdan, technical test team lead and Southeast Europe's first and only TMMi accredited assessor. Congratulations on that. Thank you for being here today. Today, Bogdan will explore how test process improvement doesn't have to slow down DevOps, but can actually accelerate it. He will share how continuous test process improvement through the TMMi model can bring structure, alignment, and value to modern delivery pipelines. Bogdan, we're so happy that you're participating today in the A4Q Testing Summit. The stage is yours.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Bogdan Rakočević, and I am here today to talk about my experiences with the usage of TMMi model as a tool for enhancing business resilience and product quality in the DevOps lifecycle, which will probably be the most used software development lifecycle in the foreseeable future. But before I begin, it is a custom to introduce myself. I have been working in software testing for almost a decade in numerous industries, some of them highly regulated, such as fintech, voting systems industry, gambling industry, and so on. But today I will talk about my experiences during the work as a test consultant, or more precisely as an accredited TMMi assessor. Since the start of my career, I have always been striving to work every day better than I was working the day before. And sometimes I intuitively knew how to get there, and sometimes it was my colleagues or my manager who would tell me how to improve. A couple of years ago, I got the opportunity to work for the first time as a test manager, and at that moment in that company, there was no more senior test manager than me who could give me feedback on my work. I only had a project manager who told me which information my team should provide to him in order for him to complete his work, but he could not give me input on how to improve my work. I attended the ISTQB Test Manager course, and there I learned that in the job of a test manager, there is a huge area dedicated specifically to test process improvement. I assume that today in the audience we have people who are familiar with test process improvement approaches, but for those who are maybe new to this area, I will make a brief introduction. So test process improvement approaches can be divided into two large groups: analytical approaches and model-based approaches. Analytical approaches are best used in a situation when you have very clear and specific problems in your test process that you want to treat. Model-based approaches are used in two scenarios. The first one is when you know that something is wrong with your test processes, but you're not sure what. And the other is when you simply want to assess the current situation of your processes. Model-based approaches can further be divided into process and content reference models. Process reference models provide a step-by-step manner for improvement, and what is common for all of them is that they have some kind of maturity scale for ranking of the test process and of the different sub-areas of the test process. Content reference models, on the other hand, do not have a prescribed path for improvement, but a model user is free to choose which area of the test process they will improve based on the business value the potential improvement would bring to them. And finally, process reference models can be divided into models with continuous representation and models with staged representation. Models with continuous representation are somewhat similar to content reference models in terms that a model user is also free to choose which area of the test process they will improve based on the business value. But as we already said, the difference is there is some kind of maturity scale for ranking those areas. Staged representation models differ from continuous representation models in a way that all areas of the test process have to be at the same maturity level in order to progress. This seems a little bit strict and non-flexible compared to continuous representation models, which is true, but it is very hard to match clarity and precision of staged representation models. TMMi model belongs to this group. Okay, we said something about test process improvement approaches in general, and now we can say something more about TMMi model. TMMi model was created in 2010 by TMMi Foundation, and there were many sources during the creation of the model. But most importantly, it uses terminology from the ISTQB standard glossary, which means that every ISTQB certified tester will inherently understand everything that is written in the model. So even though TMMi model was not created by ISTQB, they are 100% aligned. Because of this, TMMi model emerged as a worldwide standard for test process improvement. And the best of all, TMMi is completely free to use. So everyone can go to the website of the TMMi Foundation, download the model, and start improving their processes today. We can now say something more about TMMi model's structure. We already said that TMMi is a staged model, and those stages in TMMi are called levels. There are 5 levels, where every organization in the world is at least at level 1, while other 4 levels have to be achieved. The levels are achieved by implementing certain process areas. And since this is a staged model, every process area at a given level have to be implemented in order to reach that level. But not only that, also process areas at the levels below have to be implemented as well. So for example, in order to reach level 3, you need to implement all process areas at the level 3, but also all process areas at the level 2. What you cannot see in this picture is that there are smaller components than process areas in the model. They are called goals, which can further be broken down to practices, which can finally be broken down into sub-practices. In order to implement a process area, all goals for that process area have to be reached. And that is why goals are mandatory components of the model. Goals are reached by implementing certain practices for that goal. But practices are only expected components of the model because the model will not punish you for not having all the practices. They only serve as a guideline towards achievement of your goals. And finally, there are sub-practices, which are only descriptive components of the model. So whenever in doubt how to implement a certain practice, just look at some of the examples in the sub-practices. Even though it was not intention of the model's original creators, it was noticed that organizations usually strive for levels 3 or 5, where levels 2 and 4 act only as temporary stops towards their final destination. In fact, it is actually harder to implement to reach level 3 than it is to reach level 2. And the same goes for level 5 compared to level 4. Since we are today limited with time, we will focus only on level 2. But how to actually start test process improvement? I like to do it with my clients by asking them one seemingly very easy question. And every time I ask them that question, they are either stunned or even shocked by it. The question is, what is quality to you? Every time I ask them that question, stakeholders either do not know the answer to the question, or even worse, several stakeholders give completely different answers to the question, and that gives impression that they do not have a unified view of quality. There are 5 views of quality, and keep in mind that none of the views is superior to the others, and they can be combined at the same time at one organization. They are product-based, user-based, manufacturing-based, value-based, and transcendent-based view. But one view that is highly relevant in the DevOps lifecycle is a value-based view, because it considers a balance between time, cost, and scope. Organizations who see value in the DevOps lifecycle usually want a higher rate of deployment to production without compromising their product quality. And one way of achieving that goal is by improving their test processes. That is why TMMi model can greatly help them to achieve that goal. This is a generic version of the DevOps infinite loop. I like to think of DevOps lifecycle as an extension of the Agile lifecycle, because both work in iterations, but in Agile, release happens once per iteration, usually at the end of the iteration, while in DevOps, release can happen every day or even multiple times per day. Testing is also a little bit different in DevOps compared to Agile. While both life cycles still utilize shift-left practices, which are very well known by now, DevOps life cycle introduces something that was for a very long time considered to be controversial, and that is testing in production, or a shift-right approach to testing. Not every test type has to be implemented for the purpose of verifying if the features work correctly or to find new defects. You can have A/B testing, where you compare two completely valid versions of the same product in production environment to determine which version works better. An e-commerce website could have a buy button of two different colors for two different groups of people to determine which color engages more people to click buy, and once they discover which color does it, they will keep that color for all users. Or you can have canary releases, where a new feature is deployed to only a small group of people. And if they have a problem with a feature, the problem is a local one and not a global problem. It can be implemented with feature toggles, where after discovering a problematic feature, you simply switch the feature off without the need for rolling back to a previous version or for making a new release. But these are all technical aspects of testing in DevOps. They are still interconnected with people and processes. And practices like technical reviews, code reviews, exploratory testing, even though they do not exist inside of typical CI/CD tools, they are still part of one large DevOps pipeline or DevOps value stream. But how to actually improve test processes in the DevOps lifecycle using TMMi? In order to show you how, I prepared one case study for you. I had a client whose management did not understand why was the quality of the product they made very low, even though they had a proper test strategy, they had a risk-based approach to testing, and they used appropriate test techniques. I assessed their situation and came to conclusion that they had only one test environment that was used for all kinds of testing: user acceptance testing, system testing, sometimes even for unit testing. The environment was not a true one-to-one copy of production because it did not have all services deployed to it, which prevented them from performing any kind of reliability or performance tests. That is very interesting because the main product of the company had millions of users. So one would think that those test types should be important to them. They were, but they simply couldn't execute them because they did not have a proper environment. The staging environment did not have a feature for rolling back to some previous state, which made retesting, confirmation testing, and regression testing very painful. And on top of that, they did not have a test execution schedule. So everyone was using the same environment at the same time, making test data more dirty every day, and situation got out of hand. The worst thing is that the management and stakeholders simply did not trust in the test results because they were produced in an invalid environment. I made some recommendations for them, and they had a large investment in infrastructure to make a system for creation and deletion of multiple instances of test environments as needed on the go. Of course, with a feature for rolling back to some previous state, which made retesting and confirmation testing much easier than before. And they implemented one typical DevOps practice, which is a blue-green deployment technique, where a new feature, a new version is deployed to a staging environment. And once it is thoroughly tested, it is simply switched with production environment without the need for making a new release. All of this resulted in test execution time decrease many times over, which led to a cost of quality decrease, and which further led to a total project cost reduction. But most importantly, management and stakeholders started to trust again in the test results because testing was now performed in a proper environment. Everything I talked about was made thanks to implementing process area 2.5 test environment of the TMMi model. So by implementing your test environments in a way that is described in this process area, you will find yourself in a situation where you simply don't have to worry anymore for some issues related to a bad environment, but you can finally concentrate on your actual job, which is software testing. And you can imagine how many more benefits you can experience if you implement other process areas as well. TMMi Foundation even conducted a worldwide survey to ask TMMi users to provide some of the benefits they experienced as a result of test process improvement using TMMi. And you can see some of the benefits in this slide. I would definitely mention increased software quality, which was reported by 77% of all users, because increasing software quality is usually the very first reason why we wanted to improve our test processes in the first place. In addition to direct benefits from the previous slide, there are sometimes indirect benefits which cannot be measured in any way, but they are sometimes more important than those who can be measured. You could have seen in my case study that management regained trust in the test results thanks to fixing the test environments by TMMi model. Sometimes those intangible things like trust are more important to people than some reductions in cost or time. I would definitely mention my favorite indirect benefit, which is testing integrated into software development lifecycle, regardless of the methodology used, agile, DevOps, or traditional, which is something that we know as shift left. So by improving your test processes using TMMi, you are necessarily shifting your test practices to the left, which is always a good thing. We saw today that we can also shift our test practices to the right. And these two, shifting left and shifting right, can go in parallel. They are not mutually exclusive. Test process improvement, unfortunately, does not come without some challenges. And the most common challenge is when test process improvement is not done as a project. So management often expects for test processes to be improved by itself without dedicating some specific resources to it. It simply won't happen that way. It would not be fair to talk about challenges without giving you some tips and tricks for test process improvement. It is best if it is done with a top-down approach, with a strong management support. Be realistic about your improvement. It takes time, especially if bad practices exist for long. Interpret the model according to your own needs. Do not simply read the model and blindly apply what it says without giving it some context specific to your organization. Define both long and short-term goals of your improvement. And even though there were many non-believers, Agile and TMMi can go together. TMMi Foundation even released 2 separate documents regarding the usage of TMMi in Agile lifecycle and in the DevOps lifecycle. And finally, if you hire external consultants to help you with test process improvement, do not make them responsible for your success, because they do not have a magic pill that you swallow and the next day you have your processes optimized. I already said that one of the best things about TMMi is that it is completely free. Another thing that is free is a survey on my website. It has 47 questions and it can be answered in as little as 10 to 15 minutes. With this survey, you can self-assess the current situation of your test processes, and you can have some very interesting findings if several people from your organization answered the survey, because differences in their answers could indicate that there is no unified view regarding the processes, and that you could probably benefit with some improvements. I hope this session inspired you to start improving your test processes using TMMi today, and maybe even one day to apply for a formal certification of the test process maturity level at TMMi Foundation. And now is the time for the questions, if there are some.
Thank you so much, Bogdan. That was super, super interesting. We want to talk a little bit about what you mentioned at the end. You talked about like also the change that a top-down approach would be kind of, good in that process. So let's talk a little bit about people in that regard. Which people are in general included? Is it like the leads and the managers, like you just talked about, the top-down approach, or is it the whole team in general?
Yeah, so people usually think that only leads and managers are part of the TMMi assessment, but it is actually up to the TMMi assessor to determine who will be part of the assessment. The assessor will usually ask the organization for the list of all employees and for a topology of the whole organization. So an assessor can see the relationships between employees. Because leads can sometimes hide things. So you can have very often valuable information from the people who are reporting to leads or managers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and people can be a challenge, as we know. So how big is the challenge of changing like just the people's mindset, and obviously also the processes that you just talked about? And second question coming up with that as well. How far can the whole change process go?
Yeah, so there was a slide with challenges. So as you could have seen in this slide, resistance to change and organizational culture are some of the typical challenges that you will probably have on your path to improvement. But there are ways of dealing with that. It's just not possible to talk about that today because we are limited with time and it would take so long. But the assessor has a way of dealing with that, because test process, the assessment can be the assessment has two parts, like the assessment and improvement. And you can have the assessment give the results to the organization, and the organization can do with those results whatever they want. But if they want to keep the assessor to help them with test, to lead the test process improvement, and that is a second part, he or she can handle the change, because people do not like to change. They like to be in their comfort zone, but there are ways of dealing with that.
Okay, thank you so much. We have a live question from the audience. So how to match the TMMi maturity levels with rapid iterations in a CI/CD environment without slowing down delivery?
Well, TMMi model does not say anything about the cadence of your releases. So there is nothing in TMMi is opposing to the rapid delivery of CI/CD, because it really is specific to your context. So the assessment, the TMMi assessment, can be done in a traditional and in DevOps lifecycle too. So it will be a little bit tweaked, but there is no need really for the delivery of the product to be slowed down. It simply won't be.
Okay,
but
perfect.
the people need to understand that test process improvement will take a little bit of their time during the day. So it is not possible to, if we work 8 hours a day, if we start improving our test processes, it would not be possible to work as we were working before and to change our processes at the same time. So changing your processes goes at the expense of your productivity, but it is only for a short amount of time. So after a while, like 6 months until level 2 and 9 months until level 3, you will be much more optimized than before.
Yeah, change takes time. I think that's a great closing. So Bogdan, thank you so much for participating. Yeah, another question for, oh no, we already answered that one. Thank you so much for participating in the A4Q Testing Summit. For everyone watching, please vote for Bogdan on our A4Q Testing Summit website. We highly appreciate you being here today. It was very, very interesting. And yeah, I hope to see you very, very soon. And your contact data is up on the slide now. We'll leave it up for another minute. And then thank you for being here today.
Yeah, thank you for coming to my session. And if you would like to know something more about TMMi, feel free to contact me via my website, my LinkedIn address, or my email. Once again, thank you for coming, and I hope I see you soon.
Thank you.
Software testers. Move beyond theory and master testing with the AI-powered ISTQB add-on practical tester by A4Q program. The ISTQB add-on practical tester by A4Q equips you with the theoretical skills and practical competence to truly excel. Learn how to apply black box testing like a pro. Estimate accurately, write flawless defect reports, and catch issues early. The ISTQB add-on practical tester by A4Q complements your ISTQB certification by turning knowledge into powerful action. Visit our websites and find out more information.